Hello and welcome to the first video version of the Live Life Extraordinary podcast. I'm your host, Bianca DeLuco, and I'm so happy to have you here today. About a couple of months ago, I did a poll on my Instagram just asking people whether they preferred to just listen to podcasts or listen and watch. And even though I think the majority were okay just listening to the podcast, there was another large group of people who really like to have a visual component as well as an audio component. So here we are in the first visual version of the Live Life Extraordinary podcast. Today we're going to be talking about how we can reverse engineer our lives with a be, do, have model. What does reverse engineering our lives even mean? Reverse engineering our lives is when we think about what it is that we actually want in our lives. We think about that big goal or that big dream that we're striving towards, and we take steps backwards from that goal to where we are now so that it's easier for us to see our steps forward. Sometimes when we have this big goal or dream or vision in mind, it's hard for us to understand what those first steps are that are going to help us to gain momentum and make progress towards our goals. So when we reverse engineer our goals, we start at the goal and we slowly work our way backwards until we find ourselves where we are now. And that helps us to get a little bit of clarity about what's next for us in our journey. So the be, do, have formula. The Be Do Have formula suggests that first we need to be the version of ourselves that already has the thing that we desire to experience in our lives. And once we act like the version of ourselves that already has this, then we can start to have the things that we want and do the things that we want to do. And it sounds a little bit confusing, but let me break this down in the way that we typically follow this formula and the way that we're reverse engineering it. So typically we think that once we have X, Y, or Z, then we can do these things and feel these things and be certain things. So for example, let's say you're someone who's really wants to start going to the gym. You might think that, once I have enough time or enough energy, or once I have enough money to invest in a personal trainer, or whatever the excuse is that you have that stops you from taking action towards this goal. Once I have these perfect conditions in place, then I can begin to do the thing that I want to do. In this case, we're talking about working out. And then once I start to work out, then I'll be the type of person who's fit, or the type of person who's active, or the type of person who's confident in their body, right? But when we reverse engineer this, what we do is we think about who it is we can become first, the identity that we can embody first that allows us to begin taking those actions and having the things that we want to have. So for example, rather than waiting until we have enough time, or waiting until we have enough money to invest in something, or waiting until we have enough energy or enough clarity or enough of the perfect circumstances to start working out, to start the dream business, to go after whatever it is that your heart is really calling you to do. You have to instead think about the version of yourself that already has that which you desire. So think about the version of you that is already going to the gym and working with this personal trainer. How do they act? How do they spend their time? Who do they spend their time with? What type of thoughts do they have? What kind of habits do they engage in? What kind of patterns do they follow in their life, right? If you start to think about the habits and patterns and things that you're doing right now, maybe that's watching a lot of TV, or maybe that's scrolling a lot on your phone, or maybe that's hanging out with people that don't really support you and believe in your dreams and your visions. Maybe this means that you're not dressing the part, right? So it's a big part of just thinking about how we can act as if this dream or this reality is already true for us. Because when we start to act as if, and you act the part and you embody the identity, you start to take actions that align with the identity that you have. As human beings, we have something called confirmation bias. So what that means is when we have some sort of belief or idea, our brain will automatically start to look at the world around us and seek out confirmation that this idea or that this belief that we have is already true. So if you have the belief that you're not the type of person who can go to the gym regularly, or if you have the belief that you're the type of person who always gives up on their goals, or you're the type of person who never has enough time, your brain is going to look for evidence in that in everything that you do. So when you start to change your identity of who you actually are and what it is you believe about yourself, your brain will start to look for evidence of that in the world around you. So let's say we shift our identity. Instead of saying, I'm not the type of person that has enough time, I'm not the type of person that's energetic enough, I'm not the type of person that's motivated enough, and instead start to, let's say, work out, for example. Maybe the first step is just dressing in your workout clothes when you get home from a long day at work. Instead of staying in your work clothes or putting your loungewear on, maybe you put on that workout outfit that kind of inspires you to get moving, even if it's something as small as taking like a 10-minute walk. Once you start to build that identity of this is the type of person that I am, you'll notice that your actions begin following it much, much closer. We often think that we have to have some sort of level of knowledge or some sort of level of preparedness, or we wait for like the perfect and right circumstances. I've been doing stuff in the online space since the COVID pandemic hit back in 2020. I started a podcast back then that kind of phased out before opening the Live Life Extraordinary podcast back up. And I've worked one-on-one with different people who were struggling with making progress towards their goals at different phases of their life. And I once worked with this woman who had this dream of opening a business. And the thing that was stopping her from literally just starting, literally just posting the website, literally just starting the Facebook page, whatever the first step for her was going to be, was that she was waiting for her office to be perfect. She was trying to find the perfect furniture and the perfect decorations and the perfect stationery and have everything set up so perfectly so that when she launched, her office was ready. And I think that the spaces that we work out of have an energetic component that is very important to us, right? Like they say that if your room's a mess, your space is a mess, then your mind is a mess. So having a clean and clear space is so important for our mental clarity and to have space for creativity and new and fresh ideas. But it's not something we should allow ourselves to be held back by. So she had this idea that once she had the perfect office space, then she could begin doing the things in her business that were really important to her. And when she started doing those things, then she would become the 6-figure entrepreneur or whatever that big goal was for herself. Now, realistically, we come up with all of these kind of false barriers in our minds that keep us stuck from moving in the direction that we really want to go in. So what we worked on together was just starting, even with the circumstances a little bit imperfect, because the truth about life is that it's never going to be perfect. The sun is never going to be shining in quite the right way, and the wind is never going to be blowing in quite the right way. Things are never going to be the ideal or perfect circumstance for you to start making progress towards the life that you're looking to live. And so rather than waiting for the perfect moment and the perfect circumstances, or waiting for you to have the right amount of skills or knowledge or time or energy or motivation or whatever it is, you have to start thinking of yourself as the type of person who already has these things. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to think of that big dream, that big goal, that vision that you've had for a while, that's really deep in your heart, the one that you keep putting off, the one that keeps you awake at night, the one that you wake up thinking about. And you know what it is already. You don't have to think too much about it. It's like already there. And I want you to think about the version of you that's already doing that thing, that's already living that version of your reality. And I want you to, if you can, journal about it, because when we write, it's directly linked to our subconscious mind, which helps ideas flow a little bit fuller and deeper than we can do just in talking or just in thinking. But if you're driving in your car as you're listening to this, or you're in some sort of other circumstance, maybe you're taking a walk where you don't have a journal handy, maybe this isn't the right time and maybe you can save this for later. But I want you to visualize that version of yourself. Close your eyes, really sit with that vision. And I want you to ask yourself, how do I spend my time? Who do I spend my time with? What are the thoughts that I have about myself? What are the thoughts and beliefs I have about the world around me? What kind of habits do I have? Who am I spending most of my time with? And once you have that vision in mind, I want you to write those responses, as much of them as you can. And once you've written those responses, I want you over the next week to just pick one single thing you can do from that list. One thing that you can start implementing in your everyday life that helps you embody more of that identity of the person who's already living that reality. And once you start with that one small step, right? Because it feels like we need to overhaul our entire lives in order to get to where we're going. And that's not true. Oftentimes when we try to do these massive overhauls, it actually sets us up for failure because we make unsustainable changes. And then as soon as we fall off track a little bit, we get really hard and down on ourselves and just give up entirely. You've heard of this happening every year with people and their New Year's intentions. This is the year I eat healthier. This is the year I'm more active. This is the year that I spend less time on my phone. This is the year that I read more books. And for the first 3 weeks, we have a lot of motivation and a lot of traction. But once we realize that the big goals we've set for ourselves are unsustainable, we start to give up on them really quickly. And so that's why taking these smaller, more micro habits and making them a regular part of our routines and our everyday lives gives us the motivation and the confidence to keep going. So look at that list. Find one small thing that you can focus on. Maybe that's just your morning routine. Maybe that's just not being on your phone for the first 10 minutes of your day and spending time with your journal instead. Maybe this means packing your shoes when you pack your lunch so that you can take a walk while you're on break at work or right after work or something like that. Maybe that means just signing up for a class, just booking it and scheduling it so that it's already there for you. And then once you have this one small step, after this starts to feel more natural and part of your daily routine and part of who you are, the type of person that takes action, the type of person that is empowered, the type of person that has confidence, then go back to your list and again, pick up just one more small thing, whether that's a week from now or 2 weeks from now or a month from now, whatever it is, and start to build those blocks around getting to where you want to go with the circumstances that you have now. Start to build the identity that you are the type of person that can make positive and impactful change in your life. So I hope that this has inspired you to get going. I quit my job last week. And so even though this video podcast has been on my heart for a while, I haven't really had the time or the space or the energy really to do this, which is ironic as I'm telling you about Be Do Have. And I was like, oh, once I have the time, energy, and space, then I can start recording the podcast. Part of it, though, was too that I didn't have the right equipment. I did record one episode and the video was horrible. It was like super grainy and just looked awful. So I got some new equipment to make sure that I could provide a better service. It's interesting talking through this now to myself. It's like, okay, well, why didn't I buy it 6 months ago? Or why didn't I do this or do that? So let that be known that I'm human too, and that the same processes that I guide you through are processes that I guide myself through in different ways. So during this time period, actually, I think this is another important thing, is to pick just one thing to focus on. Don't try to exercise and work on your mental health and overhaul your diet and declutter your entire home and learn a new instrument and learn a second language and read 25 books all like at the same time. I think part of the reason that I'd taken a step back from the podcast during that season of my life is because I had some health stuff going on. And so during that time, even though I didn't feel like I had as much time and energy and motivation as I wanted to, I was really prioritizing moving my body more through walking and yoga and light weights. And I was really focusing on my nutrition at that point. So I wouldn't say necessarily that not doing the podcast was me waiting for the perfect circumstances, and more so that I was prioritizing other things that were really important to me. So think about what's important to you. Think about the type of person that you have to be in order to embrace those things that are important to you. Think about the types of things that they do and think and say and feel, and start to embrace that in your everyday life and see where it leads you. If you do want to share what it is you're working towards or what the step is, if you want like a little accountability buddy, feel free to send me an email at info@biancadeluco.com. I would love to hear about what you're doing. And if you do send me an email, I will follow up with you a week, 2 weeks from now to say, hey, how's that progress going? So thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode. I can't wait to hear about the progress that you're making in your life, and I can't wait to see what's next for both you and I. So Have a wonderful rest of your day, and I can't wait to connect with you again soon.